I got retired H&M driver Denny Stone hanging out with me right now. Denny, you have an extensive broadcasting career, and there was something that jumped into my mind last night after we got done chatting that I have to ask you before we get to our interview right now.
What's that?
Who's the most famous person you ever met while you were doing your broadcasting career?
It's a tough one because a lot of years in Austin, Texas, just about everybody in country radio and blues and most genres came through there. Of course, I've known Willie Nelson for years. George Strait's guitar player played for my wedding years ago.
Wow.
I knew George back in the 80s when he was really just getting going. So, yeah, I've known a lot of people. Charlie Daniels was a friend. I really always thought the world of him. He was just a class act all the way around. In fact, a brief story, if we have time. We were doing a benefit for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And Charlie was on the bill. Ricochet was an up-and-coming group, and they were opening for him. And we're sitting on the bus and hear the crowd just chanting, "Charlie, Charlie." And he's like, what is going on? Shouldn't Ricochet be on stage? Well, turns out there was a huge storm. Their plane had to be diverted, and they were in vans trying to get there. And Charlie just turned around and told the guys, he said, "Grab your stuff, let's go." A man of his caliber with his history, his stardom, he went and opened for an up-and-coming act.
That's
Not many
so
would
cool.
do that.
No, they would not. That's such a cool story. And, you know, Denny, I'm going to ask you about a lot more of those as the days go on because I love hearing stories like that. How cool that you had George Strait's guitar player play at your wedding. I played at my own wedding. Denny, I want to turn now from broadcasting to driving since you've got these two great careers that we get to draw from here. What was your take on brokered loads versus customer loads when you were a driver? Was there any difference between them? Was one more of a headache than the other? How did you how did you navigate those waters as you were driving?
Almost without fail, client loads were no problem. Usually in and out in a reasonable amount of time. The product was ready. They were expecting you. Brokered loads, I almost hated. You can cut this out if you have to, but C.H. Robinson is a curse word. I hated to find out I had a load from C.H. Robinson. They were, in my opinion, absolutely the worst. I'm sure there are good brokers out there, but it always seemed to be a pain. And there's a number of reasons why, but we can elaborate later on those unless you want me to just jump in here. It's up to you.
Denny, as a former driver, hearing Tim talk about the way the JFL tries to navigate these waters, what are your thoughts?
It sounds good. And like I said, I'm sure there are good brokers. I'm sure I ran brokered loads I didn't even realize were brokered loads because they ran smoothly. The only time, it's when you get the bad penny is when it gets your attention. Mm-hmm. Yep. One question I did want to pose to you, since you have both, dispatch and broker experience, is, well, I'll preface this by saying I always felt like you were treating me like the dumb 5-year-old child. You don't see the big picture when I would call in and question something. Dispatcher understands, load planner understands, broker understands, but I'm too stupid to figure this out for myself. And I always resented that. Why do we have to be kept in the dark? Is it some big master plan? And why couldn't, for instance, here's an example, something that I thought of for years. Especially if you're a driver that has successful experience, you have a number of years, you have 100% on-time delivery, you meet all these criteria that they may set out. Why couldn't they set up I would say like a mini board or a condensed version of the board that y'all look at and say, okay, here's 6 options, 10 options, a dozen options. Which load would you like next? Why can't that be brought into the mix so the driver has a little more control over where he's going? And, I understand there's a lot of factors that come in. Other drivers need to get home and these other things, but couldn't there be a condensed version? If nothing else, say 4 loads. Say, okay, we got this load, this load, this load. Which one do you want? And let the driver have a little bit of control over his own destiny rather than just taking what is thrown at him.
Yeah, I can definitely shine some light on that for you, Denny. So from one brokerage I've worked at in the past, a lot of it was, money. They're trying to make a buck. They're like, hey, do this load. It's going to be great. They're going to feed you a full of BS, the way I've, from working at that brokerage to what I'm doing now and doing my own, and James gave me the reins for that, is, I run one guy out of Illinois, and he loads up to Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa. We'll go down to KC sometimes for me, Ohio. And I'll say, hey, Sam, this is what I got for you. We can load in Chicago today. We can go to Lansing. I can load you DDGs back. I could push this Gladstone load out for you if you want me to. Let me know what you want to do. So how I see it is, I don't run the truck. That's with the driver. So what he wants to do is all by him. When I lease trailers out too, I'll take cuts on my margin to keep that guy in the trailer that we're running, because I know we provide good quality equipment. So I want to keep him in that. So if it's like maybe his dad is a little further, yeah, I'll give him, sometimes all the money in the load to get him moved, to make him happy, to give it to him. Some customer or some brokerages, we're a little small, but we have plans to have our own load board, to where we'll send it out to every single driver we're moving and say, hey, this is what we're working on today. This is what we're working on tomorrow. If you see a couple that piece up, here you go, grab them. They're yours.
I like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we try and want to keep that transparency open to drivers. At Warner, they have a great program to developing, dispatchers, load planners, everything under the sun. And, they say, hey, these are people, they're not drivers. You don't, you treat them with respect. They're like the people who sit next to you in the office. So I took that to heart. Any driver I talk to, anyone I talk to, I don't even see it as a driver. It's like, you have a name, you're a person, you're trying to make money as I am too, and let's have a conversation. Some people are, like I said, there's brokers who are out there to make a buck, or there's brokers out here who want to do the right thing and be ethical. And that's what I strive to do for JFL. So, I hear your pain points. I hear about it all the time.
When I would say want to go visit family, I've got family all over the country. I originally would say, hey, when you get a load heading out such and such a direction, throw it at me. But I guess the dispatcher is overwhelmed. They can't keep all of that in mind. So what I came down to is I literally had to put in for home time just to stop in and have coffee with my mother or something, If I saw the load that was going that way, I know I could stop in, I could overnight there, have dinner with her, and then still deliver the next morning. That's the kind of options and flexibility I'm kind of talking about. And it sounds like maybe you're moving in that direction. I'd love to see that. That would be wonderful for the drivers, even though it's past my time, but still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because obviously, we all have lives, right? And you want to make something work. And that's just the communication part. Like I tell my team, communication. So if a driver's like, hey, could I pick this up on Friday and I'll swing this way and visit my, friends or my parents, and then I'll make sure I'll have it there by noon on Monday. Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a great plan. Or if it's, hey, it's my mom's birthday on Monday, can I deliver this a day late? Absolutely. It's freight. I'll take the heat from a customer if they really get upset about it, because, you got a life out there. You're by yourself a lot of the time. And if you need that time, take it. For me, it's like I said, it's freight. It's going to get there. Being a day late's fine. But as long as that communication's there and I can share that with my customer, all good. And I wish more people would see it that way. Some people are like, oh, that driver's lazy because he likes to stop, he likes to do this. So be it. That's what he wants to do. Let him do it. I try and have as much flexibility on my freight as possible. Hopefully some other brokers can hear this and kind of think that way as well.
For sure. No, I think that's really important, because it's like everything else. It's fluid, right? You're moving through this. You're learning how to do it as you go. You're adapting to whatever situation you're in. And just knowing that you've got the driver's best interest in mind, Tim, I think is probably head and shoulders above some of the places that aren't affiliated with trucking companies and are just out there trying to turn over a dollar as a brokerage. And, I guess it makes sense that maybe they just wouldn't have the humanity that's involved in it. Seeing that person as a person, like you said, rather than a driver it's easy to delay a driver for 5 hours. Who cares? It's not easy to delay a person for 5 hours, and it's all about how you perceive it.